Good morning to all participants. Now I read important rules and regulations of our STP, STP conducted by VELAMMAL Institute of Technology. Okay, I can read now important points and regulations, rules and regulations. I request all participants, please follow these rules and regulations. The participants are solicited to attend all the sessions using Zoom app. Log into Zoom app using your personal registered email ID. Change your profile name with the participation ID. Example VAT STP 001. Like that you can create, which was mailed by us in Excel file. Okay. All the participants are requested to mute your microphone and camera during the sessions. Okay. All are needed to join in our WhatsApp group. Okay, through the link available in the participation confirmation mail. As per the AECT norms, 80% attendance and a minimum 60% score to be secured in all the assessment is mandatory to avail certificate. Feedback and attendance in Google Form will be posted at the end of every session after the question and answer session in the chat box only. Assessment in Google Forms will be of MCQ type, short answer type only. And submit the assessment through Google Forms only, which will be posted in WhatsApp group at the end of the day. And assessment forms must be submitted before next day in the time of before 9:30 AM, after which links get disabled. And all the participants are requested to download apps which are instructed by the experts during the session as the part of activity in Sttp. Then if you have any query, please raise your hand in Zoom app. Our session coordinator will assist you. And participants are requested to type all your questions in the chat box, which will be answered by the expert at the end of the session. And participants are requested not to post any verbal crutches, example like good morning and good afternoon and etc. Okay, like this in the chat box. Okay. All the recorded virtual sessions will be available in our YouTube channel at the end of the respective slides. And last point, if any queries regarding technical issue, inform through WhatsApp group. Okay, thank you all the participants. Now I read our latest speaker profile. Now I read the speaker profile. Today our greatest speaker profile, Alfredo Soeiro, Professor Alfredo Soeiro from Portugal, University of Porto. Okay, he is completed in civil engineering, University of Porto from Portugal. And is completed PhD, doctorate in the University of Florida. And he is also founder of some executive members committee. He is the founder of European University Community Education Network in the year of 96. And also he is a active president of following committees. The president of AECEF, International Association for Continuity Engineering Education, and also active president of AUPEC, Abundant Structural Engineering Forum of India, and also active president of CEFI, Structural Engineering Forum of India. And another one is ISHCCO. Okay, it's International Safety and Health Construction Coordinates and Organization. And also is a executive member board of EDN, European Distance E-Learning Network. And also he is the Secretary General of AECF, the Association of European Civil Engineering Faculties. Okay, again, I will warmly welcome behalf of VELAMMAL Institute of Technology and Mechanic Department of Mechanical Engineering. I warmly welcome to Professor Alfredo Soeiro from Portugal. Kindly welcome, sir.
Good morning, everyone. It is very early for me, so I'm recording the presentation. And I would like to thank VELAMMAL Institute of Technology for the invitation. And we will have two parts in this presentation. First, about the design of assessment tools and how we can produce proper assessment techniques. And the second about the creation of assessment frameworks that can be used in several countries internationally. It's in a project from Europe, but I think it will be useful, the second part, it will be useful also for you to understand what is happening in terms of the process of producing frameworks that are accepted in several countries. So I will start with the first part, which I presented in November. But I think for those that are new, I think all of you are new to this presentation. It will be useful in terms of what can be done to produce assessment tools that are adequate for the different types of learning outcomes. I will start by sharing the screen. And as you can see, I have here to begin the presentation and in a full screen. Let's see if this works. Okay, there you go. The point is that in fact sometimes we produce our learning outcomes and we don't try, or we cannot find adequate assessment tools in accordance with the characteristics of the learning outcomes. And this is what this project has done. TALOE, time to assess learning outcomes in e-learning, which is also convenient for the current pandemic situation. But in fact, what is done in e-learning is the same as in face-to-face, considering this question of assessment. So how do we progress in terms of what should be assessed? Of course, we have the learning outcomes, what we expect the students will learn, and how do we know effectively if they have learned? How can we align the learning outcomes, different type of learning outcomes? For instance, you have knowledge, you have skills, you have attitudes. How do you choose your assessment tools to fit the type of learning outcomes that you want? In fact, what happens is that there are procedures, and this is what was researched and produced in this project, where we try to find the alignment between the learning outcomes as competences acquired after the acquisition of the content and the teaching methods and didactics that we are using, to find if they were really obtained by the learners. Why is this necessary? for several reasons. One of them is that, of course, there are new skills and competencies that are being required from engineers, like the so-called soft skills, and others that are related, for instance, with new knowledge. And we need to assess if these are properly obtained by the learners. This is in line with the question of mobility and recognition. As you know, there are several accreditation procedures around the world, from ABET to EURACE, the International Engineering Alliance. India is part of the International Engineering Alliance. So you know that this is something that it's very useful and convenient for engineers to take advantage of the existence of these mutual recognition agreements between the countries, so engineers can work easily when they move to other countries, or within the same company, sometimes for other companies, but it is something that it's very useful. And of course, this is all motivated by the question of quality. We have to trust that the engineers that graduate from other schools in other countries have similar competences as the engineers graduating in the countries where you are going to work or you are employed. And this quality approach and the accreditation are moving the interest in these proper assessment tools that can be used by universities, by professional organizations, by companies, employers, etc. But it is something that it's convenient and useful. Of course, all this has to do with the students. We are concerned that the students get their work recognized around the world, and also we want to tell society that we have done our job, so we have taught conveniently the students, and they are now capable of performing the tasks that they are supposed to be doing as as engineers. So these are the reasons why we decided to advance, and there are several definitions of learning outcomes. The one that was adopted in this project, but it's not very different from the others used by ABET or by International Engineering Alliance, or by EURACE, which is the European Accredited Engineer. And learning outcomes are statements of what a learner is expected to know, understand, and or be able to demonstrate after the completion of learning. This was stated by a project by the OECD, Assessment of Higher Education Learning Outcomes, the so-called AHELO. You can visit this project and see what were the conclusions. In this project, engineering and business were the subjects chosen. In engineering, 3 areas were chosen: civil engineering, mechanical engineering, and electrical engineering. And you can see the results of this study done by OECD on how to verify the competencies of the engineers around the world in an international setting. So it is a common language that we want to have, that everyone understands each other. And on the other hand, anyone will trust anyone that is trying to be recognized as a capable engineer. So Also, the assessment was defined as any procedure used to estimate student learning for whatever purpose. This was done by Brown and all. His collaborators that co-author many papers. You can check. And my experience in this area is that any professor will have an assessment mode that it's different from every other teacher. It's something that amazed me during all these years to verify that each teacher has its own evaluation and assessment methods, and they are all good. Let's say, at least for the professors that use it, and uh, the fact that Brown et al. Decided to say that it's any procedure because they didn't want to define a procedure or some procedures. It's because there is a big diversity of assessment modes. And since there is this diversity, the choice can be proper one or improper one in terms that it may not evaluate fully the learning outcomes or competencies of the engineers. So this project, like I said, it was dedicated to e-learning 5 years ago, well before the pandemic. And we also include here the British definition of e-assessment. GISC is a group in the United Kingdom that it's devoted to work on improving education and training. And this is their definition, which has the same approach as Brown et al. That's saying that any use of a method in assessment can achieve the goal of verifying the competencies of those that are supposed to learn those competencies. Of course, in this project, since it was an e-learning project, but it covers most of the face-to-face evaluation methods. It's not that different. As a matter of fact, there was a European University Alliance, the European universities, about 800, are all members of an association that it's called the EUA, and the EUA made a study about the implementation of e-learning in the European universities. And what happens is that the difference or the border between online teaching and presential teaching, face-to-face teaching, is not that difference. So they even suggest in the publication that report that the term E for electronical should be dropped, and all is learning, and e-learning and learning should be the same word, because the activities produce exactly the same results in terms of the learning of the participants or the students. So getting back to these categories of assessment, these were the 6 categories, and as you can see, these match probably most of your assessment methods or evaluation methods of students. And these were the multiple choice questions, short answer questions, problems, which are very common in engineering, essays that are somehow common, practical work, which is also very common, and reflective practice, which is pretty common, at least in my engineering school. So I believe that it is common also for other engineering schools. And of course, what is alignment? Alignment is try to find assessment tasks that, for one hand, satisfy and corresponds to the objectives, the teaching activities, and the statement of the intended learning outcomes. Of course, we as teachers, we state what is intended to be learned by the students, but in fact, sometimes they don't. They learn something else or a variation of what is proposed in the syllabus. And the way we try that students learn, and learn is something that it's very individual, is very personal. So you can do whatever you want, but if the student doesn't want to learn, he or she will never learn. So we do our best in this question of teaching and learning activities, but in fact, there is no guarantee that the impact, the outcome, is really the learning outcome that we are expecting through the teaching and learning activities. And of course, our responsibility as teachers is to proceed with the assessment tasks. So we have verified in a certain way that the learning outcomes were incorporated in what the student is supposed to learn compared with the statement of learning outcomes. This is also proposed disalignment by Anderson et al. That it's probably the major researcher in this question of aligning learning outcomes with the different type of assessments. And it was based on his and the collaborators from his group that this work was done in this project TALOE, Time to Assess Learning Outcomes. And it is based on their findings. And of course, we had to first address the possible scenarios. The possible scenarios, as you can see in this graph, is you have courses that have just one learning outcome or many learning outcomes, and you can have just one assessment. Generally, it's the final exam. Most of the courses have just a final exam, but there are many courses now that are that use formative assessments throughout the semester to evaluate the learning of the students through regular tests or homeworks or essays or other types of assessment. We have to choose it, of course, and we have to deal with all this combination of learning outcomes and assessments. And if you think that this is a simple problem, try it. It's not. It's a very difficult and not well researched area. If you look for disalignment and researches about this situation, you will find that there are not many publications and many research done in this area. I challenge you to tell me what is the type of training that you as teachers have had in your past concerning this alignment between the learning outcomes and assessment. Personally, I never had a training about this. I had the training only after I was interested in this subject, and I had several courses and webinars and workshops about this subject, but my school never provided this training. I didn't have this training to start teaching, and I guess that's the situation with most teachers. So it's not a simple problem, and there are not also many references and many examples that we can study to perform adequately this task. So we defined the conceptual model. This was done by a PhD student, Rita Falcão. She's now a very successful person. She's director of international relations. She's not related with education. She's at the university in Lisbon, a new university in Lisbon. She's director of the international relations. She's very happy to work with international relations, applying what she had done in her PhD studies. And this model that she defined and studied reach the alignment through these two paths. On one hand, you have the assessment tasks and assessment methods. And on the other hand, you have the learning outcomes, either from the overall and overarching qualification frameworks or the learning outcomes in the engineering programs, and the learning outcomes in the disciplines or courses. These courses can be disciplines or can be continuing professional development modules that you are delivering to active engineers. It doesn't matter, but the level that it was addressed in this model is between the actual courses or disciplines and the assessment methods performed in this discipline. In terms of the educational background, we used the revised Bloom taxonomy. We analyzed all the learning or the different types of learning outcomes using the revised Bloom taxonomy. And the statement that it's associated with this analysis is that students should be able to describe the main components of a personal computer. Is, of course, one learning outcome that it's composed by mostly two parts: the knowledge or the skill or the attitude, but it's generally what we evaluate from our students is the knowledge in the traditional exams. And on the other hand, the verb that describes the cognitive process. Looking at the knowledge, what is the type of cognitive process that you are utilizing to define the learning outcome? And taking into account this definition from the revised Bloom taxonomy, we have here the 6 cognitive processes from the taxonomy: remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. Personally, I think that in terms of human intellect, going from remember to in terms of sophistication and complexity. I think creation is probably the highest level of cognitive process and results from the applying all the other 5 together, as well as evaluate, etc., etc. But of course, this is just my personal opinion. You may have a different one. And the knowledge that was used in this model is from factual to conceptual, procedural, and metacognitive. We didn't address the metacognitive because it's out of the scope, and it was out of the scope because we were looking at, like I said, courses and modules of engineering. And what happens? We try to help the teachers that have to deal with courses or new courses or old courses that they want to improve. And in this case, if you look at let's say the procedure for a teacher or a trainer, it has to write the learning outcome statements, define the content of the course as a function of the learning outcomes, define the learning activities for the students, and define the assessment, taking into account that it should be aligned, the assessment, with the type of learning outcomes. And that's what the model that Haloa produced. Now, to operationalize, I think I mentioned it correctly in English, but to make it operational, we had to go from the model to an implementation process. And this project was financed by the European Commission, the Lifelong Learning Program, as it's stated at the bottom of the slide. And you can use this finance to work with several partners. There were several partners in the project to produce precisely this outcome of having a tool that will help the students in a practical way to find some assessment methods that are aligned with the type of learning outcomes. So this is what was done in this project. Of course, this web-based tool is what I'm going to show you. You can test it here. This is the website of the project. And I'm doing this. I'm still doing this. I'm not being paid by the project anymore. I'm doing this because I believe in this tool. And I think that it should be shared with as many stakeholders as possible. In this case, the VIT and others that are participating in this webinar, and of course take advantage of the tool. This was the consortium. We had two big associations. One that it's a distance e-learning network that has been it exists for about 30 years. By the way, both of them exist for about 30 years, and the other is about the training, the continuing education, the CPD network, and different organizations that go from Spain and Portugal to the other side of Europe in Estonia and Romania. Who is benefiting from this tool? We believe that the target groups from this project are these six groups: the people that are teachers or trainers, the researchers, the people that are at universities and training centers or schools that need to credit prior learning and other courses from other countries or other schools, the program developers, the decision makers, those that somehow need to define modes for the institutions to evaluate the learning, the people that are in the quality assurance agencies, and of course, all those that are dealing with quality of education and training. So the revised Bloom taxonomy and together with the Brown et al. Alignment suggestions created this this is a simple matrix because the matrix is has multiple dimensions. We're just using here two-dimension matrix that relates the verbs, the strong verbs from Henderson and all to the types of cognitive processes of the Bloom taxonomy and the type of knowledge that we are verifying. Of course, we are looking at the conceptual and procedural. The factual is just the first two. If you can recognize and recall, probably you remember the factual knowledge. So this was not tested. And using this sequence of modes proposed by Biggs, which is another educational researcher that if you want to know more about these issues is worth analyzing. You go from the learning outcomes to the teaching learning activities to the assessment. And of course, for the student is mainly concerned with the assessment. It's his big obstacle to get the grade. Sometimes they are aware of the learning outcomes and also the teaching and learning activities can influence this sequence or not, depending precisely on the choice done by the teacher to go from the learning, from the intended learning outcomes to the assessment methods. The multiple choice questions can, of course, deal with these types of cognitive process from the Bloom taxonomy. The essays can deal with different types of strong verbs, like they are shown here. You just have to choose it. I had once a big discussion with a mathematics professor that said that essays could not verify mathematics. And I told her, I remember I told her, what about Isaac Newton? He wrote an essay about mechanics and he could never pass his mathematic course because he didn't solve problems. He just presented an essay. So essays are very powerful, depending on the objectives that you are using. In the web tool, you can find several examples on how to choose your essay according to what type of cognitive process you want to verify. Of course, problems is something that is very common in engineering. We have different types of problems. Here are a group that can probably cover most of the engineering problems that we deal in our courses. Also examples and are placed in the web tool so you can use them. Short answer questions are something that are very convenient for e-learning assessments where you do it on the computer. And these are several examples on how you can use the short answer questions. Reflective presses, this has to do with the Kolb styles of learning or learning styles. The Kolb learning styles have four predominant suggestions for the way people learn. And it goes from concrete experience, reflective observation, abstract conceptualization, active experimentation. And you also find examples in the web tool about these assessment methods. So here are examples on how you can use this group of assessments to verify your evaluation of the competences acquired by the students. One that I'm using currently very intensively are the portfolios, the electronic portfolios, as own reflection precisely of my students about the competencies they acquired throughout the semester. And it's very interesting, the results, so I'm probably continue next year. This is what I wanted to show you. Of course, there is this project, there it's cooperation with India, between the European Union and India. It's just starting. Your institution is not, VIT is not included. I don't know if your institution is, because you are probably from other institutions, but it is something where we can cooperate in the future, and I advise you to do it. Thank you.